Hey guys, Professor Pokke, and today we are going to be taking a look at a really highly requested topic from my community that we have been cooking for the past couple of weeks, and that is the Honkai Star Rail Speed Guide 2026. In today's seminar, you'll learn everything that needs to be prepared for with regards to speed tuning, action value manipulation, specific speed breakpoints, and how you as a casual player can finally understand what the bloody hell is going on with Honkai God Rail, one of its most complicated system of all time. So with that being established, let's jump straight into our seminar right now. Alright, so this is kind of it is not really a requirement, but before you take on today's lesson, right, today's seminar, it is highly recommended that you guys check out a previous seminar that we posted way back in 2024, which is an entire 2 years ago, where I also made a very basic understanding with regards to the speed guide in Honkai Star Rail. The key difference as to why I wanted to make an updated speed guide for you guys today is because of this, right? Since 2024, I would say the demand to learn how speed works in HSR has gone up substantially. Because let's just be real, it is a pretty difficult concept for a lot of players who are perhaps a little bit scared of getting into the intrinsic details of how this actually impacts their gameplay. And back in 2024, we can all collectively agree that players probably don't really have very good speed gears. Right, people probably haven't even started farming on 4-piece Eagle, right? And even if you were to try to farm your high speed gears from the different units, we don't have access to things like 2-piece Sacridos. Right, the only we had was a 2-piece Hackerspace, which was the only way you could get that plus 6% speed buff. But fast forward to 2026, I would say the general relic quality of a lot more players now can effectively hit the respective speed thresholds, which makes a 2026 speed guide all the more informational for you guys watching this video today, right? And compared to back then, right, we didn't have things like Pure Fiction, Epoch Shadows, much less Anomaly Arbitration. And Anomaly Arbitration is now the brand new benchmark that free-to-plays, casuals, pay-to-wins, elites alike have been attempting, because it is arguably one of the more difficult endgame content that you are going to be facing. So for example, if I can kind of just divert your attention right here, this is going to be my free-to-play account, MrPokke, having for the first time ever in its career a 0 cycle with Anomaly Arbitration King, Night 1, Night 2, and Night 3. This is in fact not on my main account, because every single thing over here is gonna be accomplished on the free-to-play account status. And one of the main reasons why we were able to accomplish this, I mean, Eidolons, right? Maybe the E1 Archer was able to help us a little bit, right? But the speed tuning was crucial for us to hit the respective action breakpoints on whether or not we could outspeed Murata Gravia, whether or not we could squeeze in the extra turn, and whether or not all those combined into one can help us clear the required amount of HP pool to get the respective 0 cycles. Of course, for speed tuning, it is not really just a matter of 0 cycling, right? Even if you don't want a 0 cycle, right? This guide will still be extremely informational to you, because I have taken the liberty, right, the freedom of making the speed chart extend all the way to 6 cycles of Anomaly Arbitration, such that everyone watching this video can get a better understanding of Honkai Star Rail, right? And also the last but one of the more important points, which is gonna be my content editing skills as well as presentation skills from back in 2024. I would say it's a little bit like sloppy, right? because like I had the very heavy, a Singaporean accent, right? Maybe the fonts were all over the place, right? Maybe I couldn't present my points in a more clear and concise fashion. I think nowadays, fast forward to like 2026, I hope to at least become a better presenter for you guys today so that the points are more easily understood. Alright, let out this one little point which is above, more speed tuning units, right? Because we do have things like Sunday, right? Sparkle, because she was given for free, right? Maybe you could even use this for Bobbin SP, who knows? So with all that being established, let's get into the first and most important topic of a speed guide, and that is going to be what speed guide might look for a casual player. Now, I did not make this, but I saw this super interesting article on HoloLab made by this creator called Holo. It was last updated on 2024, 16th of February. So it is literally more than a 2-year-old article to essentially break down the intrinsic details of exactly how speed works in HSR like a goddamn thesis paper. But fortunately for you guys today, I am gonna be able to break down and present to you guys how speed works in a much more clear and concise fashion, such that even Twitch chatters with terminal brain rot can understand what the hell is going on, right? So now, the very most big, very large thing to understand with HSR speed is going to be this. The big tree, chat, right? The big tree. So in the big tree of speed tuning, you have speed, which is gonna be shown from the icon called speed. Action value, which is gonna be shown in the icon usually at the left hand side of your screen, right? Every single one of those bars, right? The number for anomaly arbitration, right? All of those little numbers you see at the bottom of the corrector, they are called action value. And the third of which is called action. Not to be confused with action value, because they are in fact two different things, right? Because I think a lot of people have this misconception, especially for casuals, where you pretend that, or rather you mistake action value advance to action advance. As a matter of fact, there's no such thing that says action value advance in HSR. So if you take a look into your DDD's description, right, it actually does not say action value advance. It actually says action. And there is a huge difference between action value and action, which is what we are going to be discussing today to hopefully bring you guys a clearer picture of speed tuning in HSR, right? So let's take this down like very simple and easy to understand way. Speed, the number you see on the corrector screen. So it's very simple, right? First things first, once you go into C, right? When you press C, the moment this thing says SPD, and for example, this particular number at 167, that is going to be your speed. So it is very straightforward. Action value are going to be seen from the numbers over here. They are not action, they are action value. And then for an action, it literally translates to turn. So if you take one action, that means you took one turn. And for all of our benchmark in Honkai Star Rail, in order to correctly measure the differences between action value, action, and speed, we always use this number 10,000 for one action. So I just put up a little number over here. Okay, you guys can't see me because of my fat ass, but that is pretty much gonna be 10,000 for one action, no questions asked at any scenario, right? So with that being established, we're gonna pray into a little bit more of a in-depth look into each of the three big trees, and it is very important that you understand what these three are so that you can see how everything ties together into one big happy family, right? Okay, speed. For speed, I would say it is a lot more straightforward, alright? Whatever number you see is whatever number you get, though there are some nuances here and there that could affect your overall understanding of the game. So for example, when you click into the character screen, you can actually press on this little bar to show between the total speed as well as the base speed plus its bonuses. Unless otherwise stated, all speed buffs in this game, so for example, your E1 Sparkle as well as your Rinto Saga's basic, they are always based on your base speed. This does not include your speed boosts. It is only gonna be whatever this number the unit itself owns. So some unit, they might have a higher base speed, some unit might have a lower base speed. It kind of just depends on them respectively. But the more important thing for speed is this thing called speed breakpoints. Right? I think this is a topic and concept that you are probably more familiar with because a lot of content creators, myself included back then, we always talk about this thing called speed breakpoints, more particularly this number called 134. Alright, everyone was talking about the golden standard for your units back then was to hit that 134 speed. Because with 134 speed, it is the specific amount required to go twice in 150 action value, right? But nowadays, times have changed. Because we are no longer playing Honkai Goryo with a strict 150 AV requirement, even for elitists. Because in anomaly arbitration, it is defined by a 300 AV for 0 cycles, and each subsequent cycle it is gonna be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 900 AV respectively. So the more common breakpoints now would include speeds like 134, 167, 184, as well as the classic 200 speed. So this next part, it is gonna be created by yours truly. Feel free. Oh, wait, hold up. Okay, don't worry about it. We are gonna be breaking back down the brand new updated speed chart in the later segment after going through the next 2 points of the big tree, and the next one being AV or action value, right? So AV is gonna be this number you see right here. Usually for a lot of elitists, it is defined with 150 in memory of chaos 0 cycles, as well as 300 for 0 cycles. But that is not the main thing why you want to give a damn about. It is more so your individual units AV. Because by knowing how your units AV are going to be, you can predict who is going to be going next for the bar in the action itself. So for example, if you have another DDD applied, or another Von Weg, or a speed buff, or any form of thing that can manipulate the final AV of this bar, you can see them appearing correspondingly on this right here, and this is always absolute. And by absolute, I mean the moment you press DDD and all your units go up, whatever position they end up after a DDD will be their final position. So there's no like speed RNG or like plus minus 5%. It is whatever you see is whatever you get. And like I mentioned just now, there is a huge difference between action value and action. Because from what we have in the game right now, you actually do not directly manipulate action value. You only manipulate action, which then impacts action value. And the reason why there's going to be a very big difference is because different units action will have a corresponding different action value. If you can kind of keep up with what I'm saying, because okay, I won't want to get ahead of myself, but let's just keep on over here. And yes, we are now finally going to be talking about action. Most commonly seen from S5 DDD, 4-piece Eagle, as well as 2-piece Von Weg. So we always use this number 10,000 to get one action, but action advance is not the same as AV advance, right? So for example, when your unit for, okay, your DDD, right? Team-wide action advance by 24%. this is not the same as your units get 24 AV. Right? You get 24% action, not AV. So to take a, okay, chat, y'all are a little bit fat, so let me hide chat for a little bit. For all of these action advances, they are essentially the amount of action you take out from 10,000. So if it says a 40% action advance from Vonweg, it is 4,000 out of 10,000. And then 24% DDD is 2,400, and 25% ego is gonna be 2,500, right? So with that being established, do we have any questions? Do we have any questions yet? I will answer any questions before we go on to the next step, because the next step is very, very important that you have to understand everything so far. No, why the 134, not 133.333? I am gonna get to that very, very soon. Okay, I learned this is 2024 IC, so MU is being an elitist. Oh my god, you know what MU is? MU is an annoying kid in class that, oh my god, teacher, can we go faster, when they are like struggling casuals in the very same class trying to understand the fucking knowledge, right? So LMU. But with that being said, assuming that you guys have understood everything, this is the most important step right here. I know it might look like it's a lot, but you guys need to understand the difference between action value and action. And the best example I can think of right now is going to be with S5DDD. Alright, so S5DDD is a 24% action advance, which is not a 24% AV advance, right? And you can actually see which one is the number you are increasing from DDD. So for the first picture you see, if you can zoom in right here from my editor, you only see their final AV. So whenever you first cast DDD, these numbers right here, they are what your action value will be like after DDD. But when you slow down, you can actually see for a brief instance, these numbers, they are the triangles. These triangles will reflect how much AV you actually get from DDD. So for example, you can see it right here, right? Okay, once again, chat is gonna be a little bit fat, so let me hide chat again. Archer actually gains 20 AV, but Rin only gains 13 AV, despite the fact that your DDD gives everyone on this team a 24% action advance. And the concept for this is very simple, is because slower units will have more action value from an action advance, and this will then tie back into this formula right here, right? So it is very, very simple. Archer speed is gonna be seen over here as 125, and Rin speed is gonna be seen here as 187. So to determine how many action value you gain from an action advance, you simply take 10,000 times 24%, which is 2,400, divide by their respective speeds. So for Archer, it is going to be divided by 125, and for Rin, it is going to be divided as 187, which will then give you the AV gained for their respective units. So for Archer, you are going to be getting 90.2, and Rin, you are going to be getting 12.8. But in the game over here, they don't show you the exact speed because there are speed decimals in HSR, so they will always round up from whichever decimal you're going to be seeing on screen right here. And the reason why this is very important is because you can technically calculate if your unit with DDD or 4-piece eagle can actually outspeed a specific unit. Can your Sparkle outspeed Rin, or will Rin still able to maintain her speed over Sparkle? So one very common issue that a lot of Sparkle mains with Rin, Tosaga, and Archer might face is that their Sparkle is literally too fast to the point where they outspeed their Rin twice. Which means that the next action that Archer is gonna get will lead to a Rin's follow-up attack not triggering because the Rin is far too slow, right? And all these can be fixed by an understanding for HSR speed. So with that being established, chat, what exactly is this particular formula that you're taking a look at right now? And that is going to be right here. Speed is equals to action divided by AV. Speed is going to be action divided by AV. So for the rest of your lives in Honkai Star Rail, you will remember this by heart because it is pretty much the most important and honestly pretty straightforward formula to remember, and you will instantly fix every single one of your speed tuning problems. So for example, right, you can kind of think of speed tuning HSR as a blueprint in Arknight's Enfield. You can easily just yoink another player's speed, right? So you can see all those 0 cycles done by like elitists, right? Billy, anywhere in the world. You could theoretically just copy their exact build. So if you see them running 175, you run 175. If you see them running 100, you just yoink. Everything down to the last step, you could just yoink. But the problem with just stealing and yoinking other players' 0 cycle is that in case if there is something that goes wrong, right, maybe you play a little bit differently. Maybe your damage is not going to be fast enough. Maybe you just barely missed out on the action value. It will be a lot easier for you to know where things went wrong if you understood how speed tuning works, and that is going to be this formula called speed is equals to action divided by AV. So that is going to be the formula, and here's exactly how this formula is going to be working to your advantage in Honkai God Rail, and that is this brand new speed sheet for 2026 that I myself have personally created just for you guys today. So as you can see over here, the formula is speed equals action divided by AV, and as we all know by now, action is always 10,000 without fail. So this is always going to be a fixed number. So because you always know the action is 10,000, the only thing you're going to change left is either your AV or your speed. And because our anomaly arbitration nowadays have up to 6 cycles, which is going to translate to 300 AV all the way down to 900 AV, we will be using this as a brand new benchmark, especially for casuals who might be potentially struggling to even 6 cycle anomaly arbitration. So you can try to use this chart and find out exactly which speed you're going to use for the respective speed thresholds, right? I hired those in red because they are usually like just way too slow, so you can't just ignore them. And these are just way too fast. And the white ones they're not that bad, but it is not something that you will intentionally build for because they are at a very weird spot. The green ones are those that you will try to build for. So for example, you can see over here the classic 133.333, which is the OG 2023, 2 turns in 150 AV. And then if you want 3 turns in 100 AV, which is 3 actions, you will need 200 speed. And then subsequently, you're going to be going on for this and this. It is a very, very straightforward kind of chart. You can kind of refer to yourself if you do not want to know how the formula works. If you know how the formula works, then this is also a pretty easy to understand thing. And then on top of this chart right here, I also did this one just for my viewers, which is going to be the bonus chart for an S5 DDD and an Eagle plus S5 DDD based on the ultimates we are using in each action value. Because as we know, you can only trigger your S5 DDDs and Eagles after you cast an ultimate. But generally speaking, your ultimates are going to be quite restricted by the energy you have. So I took the liberty of standardizing the amount of outs you use by every 3 turns. Because most of the time, especially for units like Spargo and Ever, they usually use the outs once every 3 turns, right? So in turn 1 to 3, it is 1 out. Then 4, 5, 6 is 2 outs. And then 7, 8, 9 is going to be 3 outs. So with this brand new S5 DDD and Eagle plus S5 DDD, you can then see your respective speed required for your differences from 150 AV all the way to 900 AV. So you can see this is going to be a classic speed right here, right? The 184 speed, right? Which is a speed you would need for a pseudo 200 speed for 150 AV 0 cycles or 300 AV 0 cycles. And then if you have an Eagle plus S5 DDD, you can also see this speed as being very common. That is 167.33 for the same pseudo 200 speed, assuming you have these respective benchmarks, right? So if you want, feel free to screenshot for your own reference. And if you have any questions regarding how the formula is going to be working, simply go back and refer to this right here. Right, and then you can see how everything can be very, very straightforward. Remember to not confuse the difference between action and action value. Whenever you have DDD or Eagle, you always take them away from action, never AV, right? Your AV is always usually either the 150, 300, depending on the scenario, right? The endgame content you are using your units in to find out how much speed you need for each specific structure, right? So if you want to take this step even further, right? I did this for myself. It is not needed at all, but if you want to take this even further, this is my personal Spargo speed sheet with every single combination based on whichever respective scenario you're going to require, and I only use this with the sole intention of a 300 AV in anomaly arbitration, which is what eventually led to my Spargo trying to get that 171 speed, right? You can kind of see over here, my gear for my Spargo is actually not quite there. We are going to be on 167, which is why you can see from our anomaly arbitration runs, she was actually missing that little bit of AV to get her 7th turn. Alright, so I'm a bit off with 4-piece Eagle, 2-piece Vonnegut, and S5 DDD. So my goal right now on my freedom account is to eventually procure myself a 171 speed Spargo at E0 S0 so that I can squeeze in the 7th action, which might actually get me a little bit more damage if I want to use her for a 0 cycle anomaly arbitration, right? So that is pretty much it, and everything else, if you guys have any questions, feel free to either join our Discord or leave them down in the comments below. But I would say this is one of the biggest reasons why you want to use this particular formula, right? So with that being established, this is also another reason why a lot of numbers here, but we can break them down step by step, right? The other reason why you want to use this formula besides speed sheets, right? Besides speed breakpoints, is to figure out how much AV you will have in combat. And you will realize that this will be a really important skill to use because you can kind of guess where your character's position are going to be after an Eagle or after an S5 DDD. Or even after, let's just say, for example, Spargo pulling up Archer with her 50% action advance. Once again, Spargo's skills do not bring up by 50 AV, right? If you take a look over here, this is 50% action, not 50 AV. So if let's just say your Archer is at 90 AV, this doesn't mean Archer's next AV is going to be at 40 because it is by his action and not action value, right? So it's very important to understand this. So with that being said, for example, right, why did my RMC outspeed my Spargo despite the fact that my speed is way lower, right? I have a 151 RMC compared to a 167 Spargo, and that is because, number one, you have this additional trace from RMC's talent. So RMC actually gets a 70% action advance at the very start of battle. So the initial AV for RMC is going to be way faster at 19.87 using the exact same formula, action divided by your speed, because you just need to play around my speed equals the action divided by AV. And then Spargo's thing is going to be only at 4,000 because she only has a Vonnegut. So your final difference you're going to see over here, if this is 19.87, and this is 35.93, you will be left with roughly 16 AV behind, which is why this is going to show at 17 right here. Once again, you might have decimals in the speed, but we will just never know, right? And another similar example on how Rin is 17 AV behind Spargo is gonna be the exact same formula we use right here. So Rin does not have Vonnegut, but she has a very high base speed of 187. So with this current AV and Rin's current AV, you can see the gap is gonna be 17.5. So eventually, after Spargo takes a turn over here, you are gonna minus 17 off from Rin, which is going to be her absolute action value, right? So with all that being established, this is now our test time, right? This is gonna be our test time. I have actually created this test on my Twitter account a couple of days back, as if it's not even a couple of days back, it is literally where I try to ask my followers on Twitter if they actually know the answers to our tree test, and I will pick one random comment from this comment section right here. If they are actually watching the stream at this very moment, I will give them monthly pass, right? So hopefully you guys are ready for our quick little test. So with that being established, here is going to be our next first question. Right, y'all saw nothing. Right, your adder crop out. So question number 1, which build is faster in 300 AV? The left is gonna be S5 DDD with Eagle and Luxaga. And the right is gonna be S5 DDD with Sakudos and Von Weg. You are gonna be using 2 ultimates with a E0 Sparkle, no other factors. So I'll give you guys a couple of seconds. Feel free to pause this video and I will be revealing the answer in 3, 2, 1. Actually, we should do a poll, bro. We should do a poll. Alright, so for YouTube vlogs, we have a grand total of 58% right. Okay, 55% right and 45% left. Whereas for the Twitch vlog, we have 51% right and 49% left. Alright, so I'm quite happy to know the answers are almost 50-50 because it means that this particular video will correct the other 50% who got the wrong answer, right? So here is gonna be the answer for test 1, and that is going to be this, right? So to calculate our left hertz, our total action from our Eagle S5 DDD is gonna be seen as 54,500, which is just barely more than 5 turns, but not quite enough for 6 turns. Whereas for the right, by using the exact same formula,
the bigger number is faster.
And there it is. By using the exact same formula, our total action on the right actually does hit 6 actions by 61,300. So if you chose the right speed, then you are correct, right? The DDD with Sakudos is actually faster than DDD with Eagle, right? Which is also another reason why, right, if you want to build 4-piece Eagle, but your speed is going to be looking like this, it might not be ideal for your account to chase this particular set because it is way easier to build speed on Sakudos with the free 6% speed buff, right? So unless your Eagle has enough speed to outspeed a Sakudos set to the point where you do get an extra action, then it is not advisable to go there, right? So that is going to be test 1. Hopefully you guys got the right answer for the first test. Now we are going to be moving on into the next test, and that is going to be, if Sparkle uses skill on Archer now, what will be his final action value? And the only information you need is that Archer's speed is at 125. That is the only information you need. So feel free to type out your... Okay, this one we can't really do like a poll because it's not like a level right? It is just gonna be a specific action value for Archer. I will give you guys like 10-20-ish seconds because it is relatively easy, and I will see what chat is going to be saying. So we do have a couple of 43311, 6, 7, 50, 4, 40, 4 off, 1, 2, 6, 7, 9, 40 AV. Oh, 16. I see. So it appears that majority of 3.141. Okay, a majority of chat is gonna be going for the answer 4. So if you have chosen that answer, then congratulations, you are absolutely right. Right, so the formula is once again really simple because Sparkle gives you a 50% action advance, which translated into our common terminology, it is gonna be 50% of 10,000. That is 5,000 action. Then using our formula, speed is equal to action divided by AV, you simply quick swap the places of the denominators to find out the AV by using action divided by speed. So this will give Archer a 40 AV advance, and his final AV is gonna be 44 minus 40, and that will be 4 AV, right? So congratulations if you typed 4 AV for test 2. Now we are gonna be going into the final test, and frankly speaking, this is, I would say, the more difficult test out of the 3 right here. So feel free to take a guess right here. If Sparkle uses S5 DDD now, how far will she be from Rin? Alright, read the question properly, right? If Sparkle uses S5 DDD now, how far will she be from Rin? So these are the informations that you need to find out the answer. So Sparkle speed with our 4-piece eagle, and clearly S5 DDD is 167. Rin's speed is 187. You can see right here from the bar, Sparkle's AV is 56 and Rin's AV is gonna be 14. So this is basically the combination of everything you have learned in the past 30 minutes to see if you have been understanding on what the hell is going on, right? So I will give you guys a little bit of time as I take a sip of water. Yo, mods, ban MU for spamming random numbers. Alright, hopefully you guys had enough time to figure out the answer. Before we reveal the answer, let me just show you guys how Twitter has to say about this. Because we do have quite a lot of answers from Twitter, right? Then after taking a true over here, we'll show you guys the workings for the specific answer for test 3. I'm gonna ignore test 1 and test 2 because we already know the answer. So test 3, after S5 DDD Eagle Sparkle Ultimate Rin is 117 Sparkle AV 0. So Sparkle is around 25 or 24,49 AV behind Rin. Then this one is gonna be at 25.5. 2 or 3 bar stops. I see. Oh, AI. That's very, very cool. 25.49. Is my math right? 15 to 17. Okay. Not doing all that. 25.5. Okay, I feel that people that just type 25.5, are you guys just typing 25.5 because everyone is saying 25.5? Or do you guys actually know it's 25.5? You guys saying? Okay, then this is gonna be 25.49. Bro, I should give this guy the monthly pass, right? I should give this guy the monthly pass. That is actually an excellent answer, bro. Alright? What a great answer to a great question, right? Test 3 is 31.92 or 32. I don't know. I see. 25.49, 25.49, 12. Okay, 12. 26.66. 15 or 16. 25.5, 25.49, 25.49. Okay, 25.5. 27. Okay, 27. Bro, what the fuck did she see, chat? That's a very interesting thing. 25.48, 21, 25.5. I'm out. 25, 22.94. Okay, 25.49, 25, 25.5. Okay, so generally, majority of the commentators on Twitter have decided to go for, I would say the most common answer is 25.5-ish. Okay, this guy is just like probably sleeping. Very, very close, right? Very, very close, but we do have a couple of, you are pretty confident. So AI said 40. I see. That is a very, very good amount of confidence right there. Paul Rose, please give me the monthly pass. I see. I'm out. Okay. Hail. Oh, Mr. Quick, 300. Okay, that is absolutely fucking crazy. Let's review the answer right now then, right? Let's review the answer right now. So, the answer for test 3 is going to be $25.5. All right, this is gonna be the answer. So you are just gonna be taking the final action value for both Rin and Sparkle after the DDD. So you can see over here, there's going to be 1 AV, which shows as 1.16, Sparkle being 27, or translated to 26.7, but once again, in-game combat, they're going to round up for you. So the final AV from Sparkle to Rin Tosaga is going to be at 25.5 AV. If your answer was between 25.4 or 25.6, I will be Mr. Nice, and I will allow chat to lock in that answer. So hopefully that is gonna be a good little exercise for you guys. And if you actually got all 3 right without peeking, then congratulations, you actually know how to speed tune in Honkai God Real, right? So as we are about to reach the end of our quick little speed guide today, I would personally say that speed tuning is something that you don't really need to do it, but it does give you a very odd sense of satisfaction. It's like solving a puzzle by yourself instead of looking out the solution to the puzzle if you are going to be playing the game and trying it out, right? Above all, whether you want to solve it yourself or you want to yoink other players' speed tune, it definitely improves your battle performance for specifically some teams more than others, especially if you are gonna be using speed tuning units like, for example, Spargo. Right now, this is very, very popular. Maybe you want Sunday, right? Babin, Rento Saga, or any of those like speedy DPS, Agalea speed tuning, right? Fei Xiao speed tuning with 4-piece Eagle. How do you make sure Fei Xiao sticks in Babin's Concerto stage before she runs out from the ultimate, right? So hope you guys will have fun in God Real no matter how you are gonna be playing the speed tuning. And before we end off today's video, I will then be picking the random winner for today's lucky contestants. Who should we pick for the lucky winner? Okay, you know what? I'm literally just gonna scroll to a random name right now. Okay, you know what? I see this guy, right? I see this guy. Invini Sam. Who is bro watching a stream right now? Is bro watching? Oh, you posted on spam? Oh, that is just a damn shame. That is just... Oh, Invini Asem, you're actually watching. All right, congratulations, Invini Asem, for winning a monthly pass. Drop me a DM in Discord on your UID and all that. I will get you that monthly pass, right? So hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's content. Our word of the day is going to be, if this video gets 1,500 likes, we'll do more Professor Pokke guides for HSR. Just leave me in the comment section down below on what is the next topic you guys would like to see, because this does take a ridiculous amount of time to prepare and let you guys see it today, right? So join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, use code Pokke for 10% off gamer subs. All the best for God Real, and I'll see you tomorrow because we are about to play God Waves. Egg.